Jason. It's Wednesday, January 29th, and let me start off by doing this. That guy's weird. Once again, I don't have very much to talk about today, but I do have some progress to report regarding one of my challenges, and some ideas to discuss regarding one of our projects. First, regarding one of my challenges, I finished reading Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick. The book follows the character Patrick Peoples as he tries to readjust to life after a stint in a mental institution. The book itself is presented as a series of journal entries that Pat makes regarding his progress in his everyday life. So through his eyes we come to learn about the circumstances that led to him being admitted to the mental institution in the first place and his goals for the future. However, these goals become slightly complicated for Pat when he meets a character named Tiffany who also suffers from some sort of mental disorder. I won't say too much else, but I will say that I really enjoyed this book. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that I enjoyed the book a lot more than I enjoyed the movie, and that's saying something because the movie's probably in my top 50 favorite movies of all time. There's an idea for a video. Nah, that would take too long. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and give a rating for this book. In terms of entertainment, I read the whole thing from start to finish without ever getting bored or sidetracked or anything like that, so I'm going to give it a perfect 5. Now, in terms of literary value, if I was being completely honest, I should give it a 4. It definitely has that certain quality of intellectualism to it, and it has a lot of very poignant symbols. For example, the relationship between sunshine, clouds, and silver linings are all very poignant symbols that relate to characters and their relationships within the book. There are certain techniques that Matthew Quick uses to get his ideas across that couldn't have been done any other way, especially considering the fact that the main character suffers from a mental disorder and isn't necessarily the most reliable person to go to for a reflection on reality. But I'm going to show my bias here and give it a perfect 5 for literary value, which means to anyone watching who hasn't noticed, this is my first perfect 10 novel of the year. So, having finished Silver Linings Playbook, I decided to pick up Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I thought to myself, if nothing else, this could be used as research for our murder mystery project. And I'll get back to that project in a minute, but first I want to explain an idea I had. Rather than repeatedly listing or trying to point out the books that I intend to read next, I'm just going to start lining them up on this shelf here. And so even though I'm pretty sure you can't read them from this far away, the next books I'm going to read are 1982 by Jian Ghomeshi. That's my biography for February. Fly by Night by Frances Hardinge, Hard Times by Charles Dickens, and Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. Now, I haven't really read very much of Murder on the Orient Express yet, but what I have read has given me a couple of ideas for our murder mystery. Mainly what I've looked at so far was this page here, which gives us a list of the characters involved in the mystery. And that got me to thinking that I don't want to just list off characters for people reading our project. I want the act of getting to know the characters to be part of the experience of it. And that's when the key word hit me, experience. This shouldn't necessarily just be a book. It should be just that, an experience. And so that brought to mind this book, S by Doug Dorst, co-created by J.J. Abrams. Now, I don't have to tell you who J.J. Abrams is, but for anyone who doesn't know, he's the creator of one of our favorite shows, Lost. And I definitely think that we could do much worse than using his work as inspiration. Now, the reason that I thought of this book was because it's not just a book. The book itself is called Ship of Theseus, but the experience is called S. What makes this book unique is that it has a full story within it, but it also has a whole bunch of information in the margins. This information is meant to be the notes back and forth between two characters who are engaged in reading the book. And so you not only get the story on the pages, but you also get the story of the people reading the book. And to make it even more interesting, the book contains a whole bunch of little artifacts that you pull out from between the pages. It's really hard to see in this light, but there's all kinds of things from photocopied pages to handwritten notes. There's a few postcards, a high school newspaper clipping. And it all serves as part of the experience. And so I thought to myself, how can we adapt this format to our murder mystery? And I came up with something like this. Now, ideally, each chapter of the project would come in a box like this one. And then you would pop it open, and inside you'd find all kinds of different things. For example, we could have CDs with video files and audio recordings of interviews between characters and the investigator. We could have handwritten notes that have secret information or codes or things like that on them. We could have files like this one, personality information, profiles, dossiers on the characters. We could include key bits of evidence, like this murder weapon. Okay, I'll admit, it's probably not a good idea to include a butcher's knife in a project for people in grade 9. Let's put that back. But then, central to each chapter would be a collection of notes taken by the investigator as he's going through his investigation. This would be where the bulk of the story comes through and where the students would go to get the majority of the data that they would need to solve the math problems along the way. That way they're not only developing the critical reading skills necessary to understand the story, but the ability to pull information out of it as well. So the idea then is not only to provide a story and math problems to help students, but also to provide objects and documents and artifacts to make it feel like an authentic experience, like they're part of the investigation. What I plan to do in February is to take this idea and sort of run with it and see what I can come up with for a first and introductory chapter. And so that brings us at last to everyone's favorite part of the evening, chess time. Now you believe that the only thing I can do at this point is to move a pawn. But that's not really the case. There's one move that I can make that's fairly obvious that doesn't involve pawns at all. Rook from h1 to g1. I look forward to your response. Oh yeah, and one more thing.